There's a place He comes to me. Though I'm blind, He helps me see. Though I see dimly in this place, one day I'll see Him face to face.
This is Kurt Kaikkonen, pastor of Calvary Chapel, Waterford, at your neighborhood church. Today on Face to Face, we'll be in the book of Revelation. So grab your Bibles and let's get started. If you want to hear this complete message in its entirety, go to yourneighborhoodchurch.com, where you can download Your Neighborhood Church app at the App Store. And so now we have this 144,000 standing with Jesus on Mount Zion. And then we hear this voice from heaven that describes it in the way God's voice is described, as many waters and as thunder. And then you hear all this harp music. And it's not clear here if these harpists are singing this song and that only the 144,000 could understand it and sing it, or that it's just the 144,000 singing the song. But the reason that nobody else can sing this song is because nobody else has gone through the same experiences as these 144,000 have gone through, going through this great tribulation the way they did. And most of the time, we read about a special song in Revelation, and you'll hear it from like a certain group of people, but we usually get the words to the song with it, and we get to read what they were singing. Here we don't. All we get to know is that they were singing, and it was a song for them to sing, but we have no idea what they sang. But to me, again, heaven sounds like a musical where there's always somebody breaking out in some kind of new song, because we'll read all through here. There's songs from the church, there's songs from the redeemed that only they can sing. And then you have those singing the songs of Moses, which means that they're Jewish and they're singing their songs. And then you see the elders singing songs, and you even see the four living creatures singing songs. And so you have all these distinctive groups singing their distinctive songs because of their distinctive differences. And there are 27 songs that are mentioned in the book of Revelations. And so sometimes here we're all singing together, and sometimes we only get to sing the choruses, and then other times we just get to listen. But what you never read about here is anybody clapping. You never hear anybody clapping and saying, hey, good job, or anybody taking any bows, because all the glory here goes to God and it goes to His Son, Jesus, because they're the only ones in heaven who are the heroes, and they're the ones who are worthy of all this glory. But the thing is, there's always somebody singing, and the reason is because music is of God. And then it says these 144,000, they're redeemed, which means that they were sinners too, just like the rest of us who have been saved through Jesus and Jesus' death on the cross. And then it says that they haven't been defiled by women and that they're virgins. And in the Bible, the term virgin is usually almost exclusively used for women. But what this is telling us is that it's telling us that these are unmarried men. And so since they're unmarried men, that any relations that they would have with a woman, they would be defiling themselves. Because this is not saying that marital relations between a husband and a wife are any ways defiling. But these are unmarried men, and they had just come out of this world where sexual immorality has gone crazy and is at its peak. And these are real men. So they're just like other men. They're just like us, but none of them fell into any sexual sin. Not even one of them, because God started with 144,000 and He ended with 144,000. And they didn't fall into spiritual fornication either, because none of them worshiped the beast or bowed down to his image. And so now these guys, they're called the first fruits to God and to the Lamb. And what first fruits means they are the very finest. And that was always what was supposed to be offered to God, the first fruits, your very best. But it also carries this idea that there's a lot more fruit to come. Okay, now let's take the other point of view. All right, so those commentators who believe the 144,000, that they're in the heavenly Mount Zion, and we'll believe that those guys are right, and that the 144,000 have now been removed from the earth. And I'm not saying that this is what I believe. I actually really don't know. And so I'm just kind of bringing you both sides of this. But if this is true, we know that the church has been gone here for about 7 years. And those two witnesses of God, that they've been gone now for about 3.5 years from that midpoint of the tribulation. And so now you have the 144,000 gone. And then what you see here is that God, even at the very end, at this very last hour, he hasn't left himself without a witness on the earth. And that there's this proclamation, and it's going to be made to the whole world, to everyone, in every place by these three angels. This is all because God is very patient and because of his love, because he doesn't want to leave the earth without a witness of who he is. And this is even after the whole world here, they're all shaking their fists at him while in the act of this spiritual fornication, not only of just idol worship, but this is Satan worship along beside all the other sins they're committing. And that God still, he's reaching out and he's doing this all while they're screaming at him of how much they hate him, how much they hate his Christ, and how much they hate his people. But God here, what he's doing is he's still inviting these people to come. He's inviting them to escape this living hell on earth that they're living in. And so now the first of these three angels, it says that he has the everlasting gospel to preach to those who dwell on the earth. And it says to every nation, tribe, tongue, and people. So this angel, he's multilingual, and it says that he has a loud voice. So everybody in the world, they can hear him just fine. And some people have tried to make these angels out to be satellites. And there was one ministry at one time who had named their television satellite after this angel and calling it Angel One. But here, God is using real angels. And this is just his extension of grace toward mankind, because we have never seen God ever use his angels to spread his gospel message. But there are no human witnesses that we know of to reach these people anymore. And it's because they killed them all. So now God here, he's using his angels. Because what you have to realize is that God, he still loves the people of the earth. God's heart has never changed toward mankind. And he still will save anyone who will come to him. So this first angel comes along and he preaches this everlasting gospel. But along with this everlasting gospel, he also preaches about this coming judgment. And you're going to have to assume here that most of the world has already heard this gospel message and they've rejected it. Because you have to remember, that whole world, they did watch live on TV or on their smartphones that killing of God's two witnesses at that temple in Jerusalem, right at the midpoint of the tribulation. So everybody has already heard the gospel. And there is only one gospel, and that's the good news of Jesus, of his redeeming of mankind and his death on the cross. But it doesn't say that this angel mentions any of that here. He doesn't say anything about Jesus' death or his resurrection, where this gospel here is just even a more basic gospel than that. This angel is telling them to fear God and to give him glory because his judgment has come. Now you have to realize they've already seen much of his judgment on earth with those 6 trumpet judgments that have already happened. And so this angel tells them that this God, the creator God, who created and made the heavens, the earth, the seas, and the springs of water. So these are all those things that have all been partially destroyed at these earlier judgments. And it wasn't the Antichrist who created any of these things, although he's the one in the world who's claiming to be God. But the Antichrist, who is claiming to be God, he has absolutely no power over any of these things, and he can't stop any of these judgments from happening to the earth. So he can do nothing to relieve these people because Satan is just a deceiver. And so this angel is telling these people that they need to stop fearing the Antichrist and to start to fear the Creator, the real God, and to give him glory. And this means to give him glory willingly, because God is nothing at all like Satan. God never forces anybody to ever worship him. All the people who serve God and worship him, they all serve him willingly. There's never any forced worship or obedience to God. And so this gospel is just a basic understanding of who God is as the Creator, that everyone already knows is true in their own hearts. And it's just like what it says in Romans. And this is what it says. It says, because what may be known of God is manifest in them, for God has shown it to them. For since the creation of the world, his invisible attributes are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made, even his eternal power and Godhead, so they are without excuse. And this is the God that this angel is telling the people to worship. And he's telling them to change their mind and to worship him at this very last hour. And you have to realize this is also the last time that this word gospel is ever used in the Bible. Right? And with the preaching of this gospel by this angel, this also fulfills what Jesus declared in Matthew 24:14, that his gospel will be preached to all the world before his second coming. So you have to see here, God has never been dependent on man to preach his gospel to the world. He will even use angels if he has to or if he wants to. Right. And so now we have the second angel, right? And he's following the first angel. And this one says, Babylon is fallen, the great city, because she has made the nations drink of the wine of her wrath, of her fornication. And the use of the name Babylon, sometimes it only refers to a city, which is a city that's in modern-day Iraq. But sometimes the name is used to describe a city or a nation that's fallen into idolatry and are living an immoral lifestyle. But here, the name Babylon is being used to describe all of the Antichrist's whole world structure. This is describing his whole organization. It's Babylon politically and religiously and economically, that all these things are going to fall even though they haven't seen it yet. And then it goes on to say that every nation here is guilty before God because they've all been drinking out of the same cup. And when it talks about fornication here, it's talking about spiritual fornication, which is the worship of other gods, which is idolatry. And that's exactly what's been happening here with the beast and his image. You've been listening to Face to Face. Face to Face on this radio station has been provided by Your Neighborhood Church. If you want to help support Face to Face and put this program on other stations just like yours, you can contact us at yourneighborhoodchurch.com or write Your Neighborhood Church, P.O. Box 500, Romeo, Michigan 48065.
There's a place he comes to me. Though I'm blind, he helps me see. Though I see dimly in this place, one day I'll see him face to face.
Tune in again tomorrow at this same time as we continue to go through the Bible.